Hello, everyone. So what I would like to talk to you guys about tonight is replacing the elastic in your finger cymbals, or maybe putting elastic in your finger cymbals for the first time. So I hope everyone is doing well tonight. So let's look at our finger cymbals. So we know that the two curved areas come in contact with each other, and the domed areas are where our fingers go. And generally, your finger cymbals have two slots in them. So we wear a finger cymbal on the middle finger and the thumb of each hand. So you see, I have some little pin here, which is not a good idea. So I need to work on my elastic. So let's do it together. All right, so what you need to start off with is your finger cymbals, and you need some elastic. And I have a thicker elastic and a thinner elastic. So this one is probably about 1/2 inch, and this one is 3/4 of an inch. So just make sure your elastic is nice and good, not too old. And I like the non-rolling elastic. So you see it's got these little rectangles in it, because that keeps your elastic nice and straight when you need to put your finger cymbals on quickly. All right, so we also need some needle and thread. So I am using black elastic, so I prefer to have some black thread. But if you're using a nude or a white elastic, I would match your thread to your elastic. So I put a little knot in the very end of my piece of thread and trim the end before I get started. So also you'll need scissors. So let's just trim that end after you make that knot. So I like to put elastic that's wider than my finger cymbal slot, so I need some assistance getting that through. So also you will need a little pin, as we use as a marker for our finger cymbal elastic as we're working on it. So let's do this one with the pin first. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the pin out. And to take my finger cymbal elastic off, it's pretty easy. I'm just going to get my finger cymbals and put it in the loop and cut. There it goes. Now it's gone. So since my elastic is wider than that opening there, I'm gonna use my needle nose pliers. Whoops, something just flew away. And I'm gonna grab it and pull it through, just like this. Oh, it liked being in there. Okay, so you see how that looks kind of like it's pretty well used. So it's a good thing that I'm replacing it. So let's see, what do I want to do? Do I want to do this thicker elastic or the thinner elastic? Let's try the thinner one, as I'm trying to match kind of to what I had before. So that looks like it's about the same width. So now I'm just going to trim up this end a little bit. It's just a little frayed. And you see the slot is a little smaller than the width of that elastic. But so I'm gonna get a corner of that elastic and put it in my finger cymbal. And then I'm going to grab these needle nose pliers and pull it through. And you just take some patience. And you can certainly buy elastic that is the exact width of your finger cymbal. But I like a little bit wider elastic. It just gives me a little bit more assurance that the finger cymbal is there to stay when I'm dancing. Okay, so I just pulled that through. Now I have to get the other side, and you don't want to cut your elastic before. We want to conserve elastic. So I'm going to go ahead and use this long piece and just pull the other side through. So again, I'm going to put a little corner through and grab it with my needle nose pliers. And this, just get it started, and I'm gonna pull this all the way through. Okay, perfect. So this is gonna be my thumb. So you wanna predetermine which is thumb and which is finger, middle finger. So I'm gonna put my thumb in there, and you want this to be really tight, you guys. So you don't want these flying off when you're playing finger cymbals. And they might start off being super tight or a little bit tighter or make you a little panicky, but just know they're gonna relax up. So, okay, so this feels pretty good. So see, I've got one side that's short, one side that's long, and I'm just gonna kind of pull it. I'll grab both pieces together and pull it through. And when I find a comfortable, amount of tightness, I will pinch it with my pointer and my thumb, and then I pull my thumb out. So I'm gonna hold my fingers there, right at the end of my finger, and pull this through. Okay, now I'm gonna take my pen with some kind of little brightly colored bottom, and I'm going to put it through right there at the edge of my fingers where I was pinching, and mark it. So see, that's how I mark where I'm going to sew. So I pulled it all the way through, and I'm marking the spot I'm gonna sew. Okay, so threading a needle yeah, that was my needle that went on the floor. Let me go grab that. So threading a needle can be challenging. And have you guys seen this this is a little needle threader, right? So you can put that into, let me get a empty needle. So what you can do, oh boy, is slide that through the opening, right? And you can put your thread, there we go, slide it through the opening like that, see? And then you can put your thread through here and then pull it back through. But fortunately for us, I have already threaded my needle today. But let's show you that handy little tool right there. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab my needle and thread with a knot in the end. And I'm gonna start a sewing. So I'm gonna just put it through right where my needle's marking. And I'm gonna start on the end. And I'm gonna make a couple loops around on this end and kind of close off the side. And when your thread's a little long, you might have to guide it exactly where you want it to go. It kind of looped around my finger cymbal. And so I'm starting in the back, going through to the front, pushing it through with a little bit of pressure, and pulling it out the other side. And you will feel some resistance when you're working with elastic like this, and just kind of guide your thread where you want it to go. If it gets a little stuck, sometimes I'll grab the loop with my needle and pull it back out and then pull it through. Yeah, there we go, that works good. And then after you do that a couple times, you're just gonna go in and out like this. So I'm gonna go back and forth a couple times. I would say the more the better. I just want a lot of insurance that this is not gonna come off, right? And I would recommend sewing as opposed to pinning for a lot of reasons. For one, the pin can always come undone, especially if the pin is being hit by the other zill that's making contact with one of the zills. So one zill is making contact with the other zill. I'm gonna take this pin out now. And it's going to smash your pin and dent it, and then your pin is not really working anymore. It'll affect the sound, and it might affect the heaviness of your finger cymbals. So you don't want your finger cymbals to be any heavier than they already are. So if you're just beginning, your finger cymbals are lighter, but as you work into a more intermediate or advanced dancer, I'm just going back and forth. I'm gonna sew the heck out of this thing. But as you become a more experienced dancer, you probably want a little bit nicer pair of finger cymbals. So now I'm on the other end. So I'm gonna come out of this side. I'm gonna loop around. And as I'm doing this, I wanna think about tying this thread off, just knotting it. So as I have a loop, I'm gonna go through a couple of times just to start making some knots. I'm gonna go through again from the back and loop through my thread like this. Let's do it one more time. What do you say? All right. Okay, and now loop it through. And sometimes after I get finished with all this, I'm still going to cut my thread and sew and like tie it in a knot. Okay, that's pretty tight. Ow, I just jabbed myself. Okay, so now I'm going to cut the thread with a little bit left over. And this is what I was talking about is I'm going to grab these two ends just because I like to just have as much insurance that this isn't going to come undone. I'm going to take these two ends and just tie it a couple of times to make sure it stays put. Okay. All right, now we have the ceremonial cutting of what your completed Zilla. So get some nice sharp scissors. So I want to make sure, so you can't really see my thread because it's black, but I want to make sure I cut on the outside of the thread. So that's here, okay? I don't want to cut on top of the thread. So I'm gonna say it's like about 1/4 of an inch away from where I just sewed. So let's go ahead and cut that. All right, and some people now take a lighter and just kind of burn that a little bit, but I've never done that. So now what I'm gonna do is pull it back through, and I might need my needle nose pliers for that, tools, all right? So I grab it like this and pull it back through. Okay, so this is a thumb. So sometimes I wanna mark which finger, which is a thumb, and this is really tight. So I've gotta work it a little bit. Okay, ta-da! Okay, so I put tape on these sometimes when I want to silence my zills for class, but I tend to do a mark with a Sharpie just to tell me this is thumb. So sometimes I'll put a T for thumb. You can also just do a little drop of fingernail polish on the inside or the top side. So sometimes it's good to have the top side. I generally don't put buttons and all that stuff on my zills because it just adds more weight. And again, let me discourage you from pinning. I highly recommend sewing for all the reasons that I said. Those pins will give you trouble, and if they fall out and land on the floor and you step on them, you're not going to be happy with that pin in any way, shape, or fashion. So this is the way I recommend to sew, right? And you want to put it on and shake it and make sure that it does not come off, all right? So thumbs are gonna be a little bit bigger than fingers. And voila, I have a nice fresh piece of elastic. So let's play some finger cymbals. Fret left right, fret left right, fret left right, fret left right, fret left right. Excellent. All right, so go forth and play your finger cymbals to the best of your abilities because you don't have to worry about this anymore. Thank you. Mwah.